Punkish Jake here with my first Busby review of the new year. Now, I'm a little late to the party on reviewing the latest Busby releases, because now they're not really the latest when they're a few months past, but this will be my first look at them, and I will finally get to review each of the new releases. Of course, the first one that I have here is the Pixelator. Now, I normally kind of refrain from checking out anybody's reviews or anything before I post mine. That way I can remain as unbiased as I can be. I know the wall of Busby behind me kind of shows bias, but I still try to provide a straightforward review free of my personal bias, just to tell you what I think of something, which is really all a review is. But focusing on the Pixelator, what do we have here? This is a $15 spring-powered, top-prime, mag-fed, basically oversized pistol of a blaster that Busby released in a very Minecraftian style. Of course, if you haven't seen it, it is, well, pixelated. I mean, it really is. That is not just a graphic. That is an actual texture. You can see the little bumps all over everything, including the magazine, including the top prime handle, including the grip. And they are, full-on square protrusions, and we're going to get more into that here in a bit. So, very simple operation. I've already got prime once, but you grab the top prime, just like Busby is famous for top prime mag-fed springers. But grab that top prime, slide back, slide forward, and providing you have darts loaded in the magazine, which holds 10, fire. And get on to something else that's interesting. I'm going to use the word interesting here. It is a full-length trigger. You actually can squeeze that. I will do it left-handed. You can squeeze it at any point, and it's hinged at the bottom, which makes it very, very sensitive at the top. Keep that in mind. I'm laying the foundation for later points in the review here. But getting to it, it's very simple. Straightforward, just like the Champion, just like the Revolution, just like the Reaper. You have top primers. Now, this is not a reshell. Now, I know some people like to try to poke fun at Busby for doing reshells of Champions and Reapers, but if there wasn't any reusing of functionality, we wouldn't have, I guess the Recon from Nerf would have been it. No more top primers from Nerf. No more top primers from Busby once the Champion came out. You're going to get top prime mag-fed blasters. That's pretty much a traditional go-to functionality for blasters. That and pump actions, as far as springers go. So, looking at this, it is still a pretty straightforward blaster. The internals, they are a little different. It's more along the lines, kind of like a Magnus. If you're going to go from Nerf style, as in you have the floating plunger and plunger tube kind of design. But for me, as a Busby guy, it's very familiar to the Tyrant. And it has a pretty good sized plunger tube in there. Like I said, I normally refrain from checking out reviews, but Buff Daddy Nerf's blog is one that I do check out. And he showed pictures of it, and it's got a pretty large diameter plunger tube in there with a lot of air volume. So, goes to show why it would get the performance it does. This is no slouch. Putting it over the chronograph, I actually averaged 81.2 feet per second. So, you fire off your darts, it's got some pop to it, as you can hear. Not only when it fires, but also when it hits my dart catcher. And that's not bad. Now, the other thing that's good is I actually do like the design. It is neat. It's unique. It shows up, and I like the color scheme. The blue, the white, the orange, and green accents. It all kind of plays well together. It's not too over the top, and there's even a hint of yellow once in a while. And it's not too over the top, but it kind of looks tasteful. Now, let's touch on the bad. And there is some bad. And some very questionable things of why, and my next chance I get to talk to Busby, I would ask them why they chose these design elements when they're obviously going to, introduce if it doesn't introduce, mechanical faults, it's got the chance for user error greatly increased. Now, what I'm referring to with the chances for user error to be greatly increased is this full-length trigger. I have loaned this out to multiple people of all ages. Now, that I do that in my testing. And everybody has had a consistent fault that when you go to prime a top prime springer, most people don't keep their hand like this. If you notice, I've been keeping my hand free of the trigger. You prime it, and I have to keep it free, and then you fire. Most people will use the grip for stability. You grab into it, and normally you're not having to worry about this full-length trigger. You normally can wrap. You keep your trigger finger free for proper trigger discipline, but you normally wrap the other 3 fingers around, and it gives you something to grip on, so that you're not flailing the blaster around. You're able just to grip and prime. Well, unfortunately, with this one, if you put any pressure on this at all, and I mean at all, just the tiniest little pressure, and it happens mostly with your middle finger, because that bump is right there. So you put this tiny little bit of pressure, it locks this system up completely. Like, now you just heard me jam it free, and it's to the point where you're almost going to break something, whether it be the lock, whether it be the priming bar itself. You don't know, but it's absolutely hitting a hard mechanical lock, and that's just from the tiniest little pressure. And everybody that tried this blaster did it. So that is a strike against it right there. Now, what's the other mark against it? Because I said there are problems. That's plural. This one, that is a hard fault. And yes, you can get used to it and work around it, but the moment you loan this out, another person's going to fight with it. And while I didn't have any actual mechanical issues of jams or malfunctions of any kind, I rarely ever do with Busby blasters. They're internally, functionally, they are very simple. But that was a problem. Now, what it's attached to is also the other problem. I mean, I know. Busby grips. Surprise, surprise, there's an issue. But this thing is so squared off. Not even touching on the pixelated bumps yet. But it's so squared off and so large. It fits my hand fine, but I do have a large hand. Everybody else complained about it. Everybody. Like, that was a absolute consensus, was that, man, this grip's bad. Because the edges dug into their hands, people with smaller hands barely could get it around, and then, because they're barely gripping it, they would always hit the trigger when trying to prime. So it goes hand in hand, I know, no pun intended, but then add on top of that, the grip that, it does not have hardly any profiling. It's like flat back, flat sides. So there's no ergonomic curves and contours like you'd expect. However, there are lots of bumps sticking up all over it. And these bumps are sharp. They are literally squared off. Like the molding is straight-sided, 90-degree corners, and that just adds into it. Now, if you're somebody like me who's worked with your hands a lot, like I say, I do stone monument work, my hands are calloused. It doesn't bother me so much. That's probably why I'm tolerant to it. But everybody else complained. So that's why I loan off blasters. When I give a review, it's not just me soloing it. I'm telling you what other people have actually told me when I let them try it. Because normally it's like, here's a full mag, try it. Here you go. Tell me what you think. And trigger is an issue, grip is an issue. And on top of that, this top priming bar is well undersized. It doesn't need to be uncomfortable, but it's so undersized, I cannot get my fingers in there. And I am not a person with fat hands, but I can imagine somebody with larger hands than mine even, that's not going to work. And smaller hands, again, they went with the bumps. You can see it there on the screen. There's bumps all along the way. Why? Make this smooth. The shell itself actually is neat. I like it. And if you didn't, you could actually epoxy that all over the surface if you wanted to smoothen it out. Now, if you want to smooth it out, you could, again, epoxy it. You could wrap grip tape. But this trigger gets in the way of those ideas. So, what do I think? Oh, to end on a high note, I do like the paddle mag release. Very nice. They should have done this quite a while ago. That's actually extraordinarily nice. So, positive note there, that it does have a very nice mag release. So it has good power. It comes in at a pretty low price, at $15. I think the shell looks good. It has good sturdiness. The only rattle you hear is the mag itself. It's very sturdy, feels secure, feels solid. But the unergonomic top prime, the handle, and this oddball, full-length trigger. I get it on the trigger fire. The trigger fire needs that. This does not. So as much as I actually find it to be a neat concept of the whole pixelated thing, and if you're a fan of Minecraft, I'm sure you like it, I'm going to have to say I would always pick the Revolution over this. There's no reason to buy this over Buzbee's own Revolution. The Revolution is the superior blaster to this. Now, can we make this better? Sure. And I think I'll do a video on that. But as is, I can't recommend the Pixelator. The Pixelator, it doesn't do anything better than the Revolution, but it does bring a whole lot of ergonomic issues and functionality issues that the Revolution doesn't have. The Revolution is a superior blaster. Oh, and it's also the same price or lower depending on the retailer you find it at. At Dollar General, where I see these are $15. The Revolution was only $10, and I think they bumped it to $12. So Buzbee Revolution would be the far better choice for a top prime, spring-powered, mag-fed, basically almost primary level blaster at a very, very low price. So Buzbee primaries that are of this style, go get yourself a Revolution. The Pixelator, I think it's pretty much a pass. I'm going to try to see what I can do to make one better. But that's where I have to leave it. Even as the Buzbee guy, I think this one is a pass. Again, I like what they were doing with the looks, but I don't know why. I don't know why. So, I know. Buzbee's going to see this and say, oh no. But that is my true and honest review. Hope you enjoyed this, even if it wasn't the most positive ever. But the next one, I think you're going to like it, because next one up is the Buzbee Tornado, and spoiler, I love the thing. So, moving on from the Pixelator to that next, stay tuned for it. Till next time, it's Mongoose Jake saying thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it.